Hello and welcome back to The Single Cook. My name is Tiffany, and today we are going to be making a new dish with no round two options. This is going to be a apple pork fillet with Parmesan potatoes and green beans. There are some seasonings shared across all three items, so feel free to use those. Feel free to mix it up and add additional things that you enjoy. Today we're going to be using a special ingredient. This one is from Aldi's. This is a specially selected apple and date balsamic spread. We're going to use that to make a sauce for our pork. You can absolutely add other things to this, like fresh apples and onions, if you so choose. We're just not doing that today. Now, my kitchen is a little bit darker today because I am making this at night. I did not feel like cooking until too late, but here we are. Dinner still gets to be made. Let's get cooking. Okay, so we have already prepped some of our ingredients. The first thing that we're going to start with, and what I recommend you doing, is actually prepping your potatoes. So I had some very small potatoes that I have sliced into 1/4-inch thick rounds, and I've put those all in a bowl so that we have those ready for us. I'm also going to be using some fresh green beans. These are not from my garden, they haven't come up yet, but these are just from the store, but I am using fresh ones that I have just nipped the ends off of, and I have set those aside in a jar to add to my stock bag later. I've also got some mushrooms that I have just kind of chunked up. I like mushrooms with my green beans. Some people don't. You do not have to do them if you do not want to. And then I have separated out my other ingredients. I'm going to be using oil, salt, pepper, garlic powder, rosemary. I have my stock concentrate that I've made before. I've got some garlic. I've got that spread that I talked about, the Parmesan cheese, the butter. I have honey mustard. You can absolutely use Dijon mustard instead. And then I have my pork fillets. And those I have rinsed and I have patted dry with paper towel, and they are just resting in the paper towel. Okay, those are our ingredients. We're going to need 2 small baking sheets and then a pan as well. I have that ready to go. And let's get cooking. Okay, we're going to start with those sliced potatoes. And I'm going to add just a little bit of oil, enough that it'll be able to coat all of those potatoes. And this is just a neutral oil. I'm going to add in some of the garlic. Just about a tablespoon of that. And then we're going to add our seasonings. I'm going to do a couple of rounds of salt. We're going to do some of that coarse black pepper. Probably about a teaspoon. I'm going to add some garlic powder because you all know that I love my garlic. And lastly, some rosemary. And these are dried rosemary leaves. I am going to crush those as I put them in. We're using about a teaspoon and a half. And we're going to mix that all up. I recommend taking your rings off if you are going to be mixing anything with food or oil. Nobody wants to be pulling rosemary out of their rings. And then we're going to layer those in a single layer on the baking sheet. Make sure all of the seasoning gets pulled out with it. And to make sure all of the edges are nice and crispy, you really don't want them overlapping on each other. I am putting the round sides of the ends of the potatoes up. That way they have a chance to evenly crisp. And we'll put that in a 450-degree oven for 10 minutes. Okay, we're going to do our second sheet with our green beans. And I'm just going to do it straight in the sheet this time. So we're going to add our fresh green beans. You can absolutely use canned green beans here or frozen. That is up to you. I'm going to add my mushrooms. And this is about 5 small button mushrooms. We're going to add our garlic. A little bit more than what I did on the potatoes. We're going to do our salt and our pepper. And I am going to be pouring too much pepper, so I will attempt to put that back in the jar. Most of it worked. And a little bit more of that garlic powder. I thought about the rosemary and decided against it. We're going to add our oil on top. And this is going to be just enough oil to prevent the beans from sticking to the tray and also give them a fine coating. We're going to do another mixy mix. Make sure everything is nice and evenly coated, that those seasonings have been mixed around. And we're going to try and keep it on the left side of the tray so it is all just on one side. Now for our pork. We're going to light my stove because it is a little weird. And we're going to get that pan heating over top of that. I'm going to add a little bit of oil to our pan, probably a couple tablespoons. We'll let that get heated and shimmering. Now my pork has been rinsed and it has been patted dry and just resting in the paper towels. And I'm going to season it right on the paper towels so that I don't make a giant mess. We're going to do a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper, and if it clumps up into the middle, that's okay, it's going to get spread around. A little bit of that garlic powder. And you absolutely could do other seasonings here as well. This is just what I'm using. We're going to check on the oil. And we're going to put it seasoning side down in our pan. Throw away my paper towels. And when you touch raw meat, wash your hands. Okay, I'm going to grab my tongs and get those ready. I'm also going to season it in the pan on the back side. This is the side that was not seasoned before. Again, that salt, that pepper, and that garlic powder. And if some gets out into the extra pan, that's perfectly fine as well. It'll just go into our sauce later. And we're going to let that cook until it gets nice and brown. And I'm going to spend the next 4 to 8 minutes just flipping it around and making sure that all sides of that are evenly browned. And I'm looking for the edges to be crispy, but not burnt. And we're looking for some color, but we don't want to fully cook the pork. So we have a little bit of that brown coloring around the edges. It's picked up some of that seasoning from the pan. And we're going to put it up on the sheet pan with the green beans and the mushrooms on that open side. And we'll set those aside until our potato timer goes off. Our potato timer has gone off, and we've pulled the tray over to the stove so that we can add our Parmesan cheese. Now this is just shredded Parmesan cheese, and I'm going to put a little bit over each of the slices, trying to get it as evenly distributed as possible. I am kind of skipping the ones with the rounded ends, just because the cheese won't stay on top of it very well. But overall at the end, we'll just dust it across. And once those have all been coated in the Parmesan cheese, then that will go back into the oven with our green beans and our pork for another 10 to 12 minutes. Okay, let's work on our sauce. We're going to light our oven back. And we'll move that back over to get reheated. I have not cleaned this pan out. It still has all of the drippings from the pork. We're going to let that get back to heat. And this is just 1/4 cup of water. We're going to use that to deglaze our pan. And we're using a silicone whisk here so we don't damage our pan. And that'll just get all of that goodness up off of the pan and into our sauce. Next, I'm going to take that apple, date, and balsamic jam, and I'm going to be putting about 4 tablespoons or 3 heaping spoonfuls in the pan. That's about half of that little jar. And then I'm going to be adding about a spoonful of my stock concentrate. Just about a spoonful, probably the equivalent of a teaspoon. We're going to put that right in. Make sure all of that goodness gets off the spoon and into our pan. And then I have the honey mustard. You can absolutely use Dijon mustard or leave it out. It is completely up to you. I think it adds a nice little tang, and I'm going to do 4 squirts. I like to spread them around the pan, that way I know exactly how much I am adding in, and I can try and get those squirts evenly as possible. And we're going to whisk that all together until it starts to combine and come together. And we're looking for it to be thickened, but not sticky. And we just keep stirring until we get it to the correct consistency. Again, we're looking for thickened but not sticking. We want it to move freely and everything to be the same color and the same consistency. Now we've reached the point where it has thickened a little bit, so if I move the spoon through it, it will coat the back of the spoon, and when I move my finger through it, it creates a clear separation of line. We'll turn the heat off, and then we're going to add about 1.5 tablespoons of butter straight into the sauce. That will also help it thicken up. It'll also make it glossy and shiny, and add just a touch of richness to it. Whisk that in to combine it and get it all mingled in. And once it is fully incorporated, that is our sauce done. And we just have to wait for the rest of the meal to finish up in that oven. Okay, our meal has finished. And we've let our pork rest for about 5 minutes. We have our potatoes, our green beans, and our pork. I'm going to take the pork fillet and I'm going to slice it on the cutting board. And I'm going to use my spatula to help me slice. That way I don't have to stick my fingers in it and I don't have to dirty another fork. I know it's weird. Okay. And we will take our slices and get those onto the plate. Watch as it will not cooperate with me. And we will clean away our cutting board and our knife to get that out of the way. Next up, we're going to add our potatoes to our plate. And I'm going to take about half and dump a few of them on my stove as I go, because it's that kind of video. Luckily, I'm the only one eating it, so it won't matter when I pick these up with my fingers and put them on my plate. couple more potatoes. And then we're going to add our green beans with our mushrooms and that garlic. And finally, we're going to give our sauce another little stir around with that whisk so we can make sure it is all still incorporated, that there's no skin on the top of it, and it's evenly flowing. And we'll just spoon that right over top of our pork so that it's a nice even layer for our meat. Since I've made a mess, clean up as you go. We have our pork with that sauce, we have our potatoes, and we have our green beans. And that has been our video for today. So our potatoes came out fluffy on the inside, crispy on the outside, with that seasoning around the outside that just made it extra punchy. We had our green beans with our mushrooms and that same kind of seasoning that just carried the flavors from side to side. We also had our pork fillets with that special apple and date and balsamic jam sauce. And that came out tangy and soft and very juicy. That sauce was amazing. I'm glad I thought of it. And as I said before, you can always add extra ingredients to that. If I'd had a fresh apple, I probably would have added some of that to that as well. I also could have added some of the sliced onions or the diced onions from the other day. That would have absolutely made it a thicker and more substantial sauce. And you can always add extra ingredients, or you can change out things. You could change that apple, date, and balsamic to an apricot jam. You can change it to an orange whiskey marmalade. Those flavors are up to you. But using a jam with some stock concentrate, with something like a mustard and a little bit of water, can absolutely make a sauce to go over almost any kind of meat. Apple tends to work really well with pork. So that's why I decided to use that spread today. And you can definitely find that spread at Aldi's. It's in their specially selected brands. Now, it may not be available all the time, but it is available seasonally. It's just something that I had in my fridge ready to go. So thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking and subscribing. I hope that you'll come back and see some more content, some more videos as we continue to move through recipes for one or two. This has made enough for 2 people, or at least for me and my lunch tomorrow. And I may use that pork on a sandwich later. I'm not sure. And you can absolutely switch up the sides. You can make it with stuffing. You can make it with mac and cheese. You can do whatever kind of sides you want. This is just a suggestion. So again, thank you for liking and subscribing. Thank you for watching. And I'll see you next time at The Single Cook.